Oh, hi, Mark.
The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
All right, everybody, Nick Draper here with Stuart Deacon's 9 Years podcast, 21st of December 2017 on iTunes, YouTube and 9yrspodcast.org. And we are closing in on Christmas and the busy football period that it brings. So this week we're looking at our festive fortunes of yesteryear and seeing if there is any hope for us over the coming fortnight. We'll also be wondering how teams in the relegation zone on December 25th have finished their campaigns as we find ourselves in the thick of a real scrap for survival this season. And we'll be looking ahead to the games with Bradford and Portsmouth over the next week. But first, we must discuss the 4-0 defeat to Wigan from last Saturday. And Stu, my big question this week is centred on the depth of our squad as Anthony Hartigan and Kwesi Appiah made their return from injury as substitutes on Saturday, coming after the sending off of Harry Forrester. And my question really is why? Were not Jimmy Abdou and Ejikaja better options in that situation than two players that have just come back from lengthy absences? Or is it in the case of perhaps one of those, Abdou, I would imagine, has he just fallen right out of favour at the moment?
The Jimmy Abdou question is just unreal, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? When I think I saw somewhere someone dug out a quote from Neil Ardley who basically said when Jimmy was signed, he was a sort of player we've been looking after all season. Near enough said, didn't say so words, but near enough said, first team choice, a regular. Started as comfort, got the goal, didn't he? Got his sending off away to Fleetwood, if I remember properly. Was it Fleetwood he got sent off?
Blackpool, I think.
That was close, wasn't it? I knew it was somewhere up there.
Geographically close. Certainly closer geographically than Plymouth and Portsmouth.
Of course. Good derby then. But yeah, it seemed to get sent off then, and from that situation, seemed to be out of favour. Obviously, he's been on his international duty, but we knew that when we got him. It's a weird one, isn't it? I like Jimmy Abdou, but there's no point in him sitting on the bench being paid X amount of money, which I'm sure is nowhere near. I'm sure it's a lot more than what we're paying Andy Hartigan and players like that. So the Jimmy situation needs to be sorted out. I don't think Millwall are going to recall him. I don't think we have the option to send him back. So it does seem like a bit of a waste of money having a player like that on a bench at the moment.
What happened then with these substitutions? I suppose we should go through a timeline of the game just to refresh memories. So we went 1-0 down, didn't we, about the hour mark. And then Harry Forrester, about 10 minutes later, second booking, red card. Then the flurry of substitutions. They made one. We made our two that I've just referenced there. And then it all went horrendously wrong and we let in 3 in the final 20 minutes. The substitutions for me, as much as the red card, of course, is going to be an issue and everyone's going to look towards that. And we will be discussing the performance of the referee on Saturday. But I just keep going back to these substitutions and thinking, I'm at a loss as to what they were there to try and achieve. They were like-for-like subs. We were light of a man in midfield. I guess we were 1-0 down, so you don't really want to reduce your striking options. I get that. But we were losing that midfield battle, and then we completely caved in that midfield battle after the red card and after the substitutions. Can you get in Neil Ollie's head about this one and figure out what the intention was?
I don't know, to be honest with you, because normally in that situation you either go, we got 69 minutes, wasn't it? So you sort of know you're going to be outnumbered on the pitch, and Wigan moved the ball around well. So you'd expect really to probably add another midfielder and maybe go with the one up front, or someone else coming to join in. But yeah, to go like for like, and we just left big holes everywhere. I suppose obviously the reason for Andy Hartigan coming on was because probably try and retain possession a bit more. Maybe try and get the ball moving so we can get that. Kwesi Appiah, I think was always going to get game time. But you sort of bring him into a bit of a thankless task, don't you? Because if you look at that, he's come in and got match time, but has he got any quality match time? All he's done is basically lost the game 3-0. Not him on his own, but that's how you look at it. I don't know. There was gaps everywhere, wasn't there? There was gaps everywhere. And unfortunately, that's the situation Harry Forrester left us in. I think we have to remember that, you know, he basically went a bit too mad with the referee and got booked silly. and then does a reckless challenge. Reckless, but he does a challenge that he needs to stay out of, and he puts us in that situation. But the subs, yeah, I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you. You think you try and stay in the game and try and get a set piece, try and get a bit of luck, you try and keep it 1-0, but you go gung-ho like we've done, and that's what happens.
I'm going to come back to that mention of set pieces there in a moment. It was a case of, as you say, being a man light because of Forest's red card, and they are just totally monopolising possession, as you would expect in the midfield. We took off Tom Sawers now. Tom Sawers was on a booking. Neil Lively said he probably could have got a red card, actually, and I'm sure that's the thinking behind him coming off. And, let's be honest, it was not Tom Sawers' best game by any stretch of the imagination. There are people listening, questioning when was his best game for us, but that's not a question for another day. There was no one on that pitch then, after those substitutions, that could actually go and win the ball. So we all come back in a little bit of a loop, all the way back to Jimmy Abdou. What's going on? Do you think Jimmy Abdou might leave in January to free up some space in the squad to bring in, for argument's sake, a sort of target man type striker that might already be training with us?
Yeah, but the thing is, do we have the option to give him back to Millwall? Is there... Normally you get some situations, we've had loanees where they've recalled him, and that's still a situation that Harry Forrester may have, because you may find clubs that might want to put a bid in for Harry Forrester, which would mean Rangers will recall him to get a transfer fee, which happened with Tubbs a couple of years ago. I don't see Millwall recalling Jimmy Abdou because do they need him? They may see he's not getting any game time, but let's be honest with you, the reason why he got the year extra deal at Millwall was because he got his 10-year testimonial. I don't think Millwall want him. So I think we are left with a little bit of a... If we're not going to play him, then we're left with a player that's a little bit a waste of money and a waste of time being with us. That sort of side of it. In terms of, could we free up the money to get a certain loan signing? Sorry, a certain free transfer. I don't know what it is. He's not played for God knows how long, has he? But I obviously know you're referring to Carlton Cole.
I am indeed, yes.
To be honest with you, I don't really want to go there. He would be my last... He would be a signing on the last day of January if we missed out on all our targets for me.
Surely, have we not mentioned earlier in the season that it doesn't really matter who it is, just as long as we've got someone that we can lump a long ball towards?
Yeah, I think you're right. We did say that. I didn't even mean it. I think it was a flippant comment, wasn't it? Of going, let's just have some height. But I think when I don't know how much Carlton Cole's going to cost us. That's the thing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? He's going to come on a game by game. That's all really he should be able to demand. We shouldn't really be paying him a weekly salary because we need to make sure he can get games. But if that is the target man we're going with, then that's a big risk for me. It's a big risk, and he has to be our last. Bluntly, he has to be our last resort. Can't be our first signing.
I'm going to reserve judgment on him for the time being. What I would say is, going into a relegation battle, which we all accept that we are in now for the remainder of the season, is he the sort of player you want in that? Because basically, him being at Wimbledon right now, training whatever, is for his benefit, no one else's. Is that the sort of player you want in a relegation scrap? I don't think so, but that's another conversation perhaps for January. We'll revisit the Carlton Cole subject. The other one I said I was going to come back to you on, there was two, wasn't there? Well, there was the referee. We'll do him last. Let's go for set pieces. You said there perhaps the idea was maybe try and stay in the game at 1-0 and nick a set piece and try and get an equaliser that way. But we haven't scored from a corner this season, and I was looking earlier at our record in the whole calendar year 2017, of which we'll talk more in depth about next week. I can't recall the last time we did actually score from a corner. Why is it not happening for us? Height, yes, we do have a height issue. We all are aware of that, but not that badly off. And the centre halves, pretty decent attacking set pieces. We've seen it in the past. So what are we doing wrong this season?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. Last year we looked quite, if you think about the promotion year and first half of last season, we were so imaginative, weren't we, on corners? Doing the old Teddy Sheringham flat corner that goes to near stick, doing the reverse free kick where we got the person overloading the back stick and then heading across goal. We had loads of variety on our free kicks and free kicks and corners and kept them guessing. We're just predictable as anything now, aren't we? You get Lyle taking corners on Saturday. Yeah, Lyle's got a great he gets great pace on his corners, even from open play he gets them. But one of them he put such pace on Saturday that he nearly knocked Jonathan Meades out with the ball because it just hit his head rather than. So it was just, there's no consistency. Obviously, no George Frankham, Dean Parrott's out, so they're our two main set piece takers. But I just don't think we have any confidence. There's no variety. You're knocking balls into areas. You're not really mixing it up. You're not trying to tempt the keeper on one. You're not knocking it. Normally, the one thing that Lyle did do well, I actually thought, on Saturday was he took one free kick that actually he looped over and he nearly scored in the back stick on early in the game. And the one thing he did was he actually stopped the goalkeeper coming his line and being too adventurous, because I think the keeper thought, if I try it again, he might get it right and embarrass me and put it over me. But sometimes with even free kicks, you have a couple just to test out the keeper, get him guessing, and then you deliver one that he's not. We're so easy to. There's no imagination. It's just no surprise that we're not scoring from them. Bearing in mind that we always seem to overload people on corners. We had more corners than Wigan did on Saturday. We didn't look any dangerous to them.
No. I'm actually looking back and I'm thinking, if you know better, please let us know. But from my recollection, the last time we scored, this will be league only, admittedly. Last time we scored from a corner would have been the 4-0 win over Port Vale. So we are talking a calendar year ago.
And they were rubbish.
That
was the worst team. Who scored the corner?
Yeah.
Tyrone Barnett?
Wasn't Tyrone Barnett.
No.
It was Chris Robertson.
Really?
Oh
dear.
Unless
I don't know. It's a worry. The thing is, we get lots of corners because of the way we play. We tend to try and work the sides a lot, especially when we play 4-3-3. We work the sides a hell of a lot, and a lot of times defenders would concede corners rather than let us get balls in the box. What's the point? It's rubbish. We're not very good at delivery. It's something I know Neil Hardy from when I've been down the training ground many times, that Neil Hardy does practice like any team does, but we just have no confidence on them on match day at the moment.
Going to have to say, we did actually score in January in the 2-1 win over Oxford from a corner. Sean Kelly in the 2-1 win over them. So,
yeah, who was quite threatening on set pieces.
Yeah, he was, but that was the last one I can actually think now. That was it. So basically, I've gone from a calendar year to just under a calendar year. It's a bit of a worry. The other big worry we have to talk about is the referee then. So let's get on with it. Brett Huxtable was his name. Not a name that particularly I didn't mean anything to me, to be honest, when I checked his name in the programme. So I'm not going to forget it now, though. There is a reason why normally we don't criticise referees. We don't like to go down that line. It's because when you get an actual really, really bad one, you can't be having to go at referee every week, because really you realise they're actually not too bad. It's only at times like this when you realise when it is right to be moaning about a referee, and this was certainly one of those occasions. He just lost control, didn't he? Now, are we, like we said on Facebook immediately after the game on Thursday, are we laying this at Paul Cook's, what should we say? I don't want to say mind games, because that's not quite the right word, but game management. Yeah,
he's got into the referee's head, hasn't he? So I think we heard that the referee had, Paul Cook had some words with the referee at half time. In a way, in so many words that you've given us nothing all half ref. And we heard the referee mutter some stuff back to him, stuff you don't know what it is. But then he comes out second half, and we've had 3 bookings in no time at all. You have to think, what changed? Is it just circumstance? Is it coincidence? Something changed. Paul Cook has been around the block a number of times, and I would have thought, he admittedly said, that we played really well. There was never a 4-0 game. We worked really hard. So he obviously knew that he had to do something a little bit different to try and get an edge on the game, and it worked. The thing with Neil Hardy commented and said that he was always speaking to the fourth official, and trying, but the fourth official has no influence in the game at all. The fourth official is there basically to work the number thing, the substitution board. Yeah.
All right.
That's all he's there for. To press a few buttons, and basically he might as well be an agony aunt, because all the referees are shouting, The managers are shouting at him. He can't influence nothing. He just goes, yeah, I know what you mean. Switches off, then waits for a substitution to become important. There's no point us moaning to a fourth official. Unfortunately, Paul Cook's got one on us. And then after that, the referees wound us up to the extent where Forrester gets a silly booking and then gets sent off. And Nilwadi was right. Tom Sawers could have been sent off. He went in, he was late. He looked like for a minute the referee was going to send him off, and Tom Sawers didn't know if to get up or not. But we could have been down to 10 men earlier than that, and something along the line, it's rattled us. But on reflection, I'm not too sure whether the referee was that bad, or was what Paul Cook done that good.
The referee's assessor pulled the referee into his room very quickly after the final whistle, we are led to believe. So
yes.
Read into that what you will, I suppose. It just does seem bizarre that second half was markedly different, to the point where we've ended up with Darius Charles being booked after the final whistle as well. So
yeah, and he won't keep his mouth shut, and I don't blame him. But after the game, I do find bookings after games crazy. I really do. I find a little bit of... It
comes back. Sorry, it just comes back to this thing like we've been saying. Sometimes we're too nice. We don't put pressure on the referees in the way that Paul Cook has obviously done, and we mentioned it before. But teams at the top of the league, yes, they are there because they've got very talented squads, and over the last few seasons, well, our experience pretty much, budgets play a massive hand if you go back all through the years in our time as AFC Wimbledon. But there's also an element of knowing how to manage games. And Sheffield United knew how to do that with Chris Wilder last year, no doubt about that. Wigan clearly know how to do that as well, know how to use the officials to their advantage. We are so naive when it comes to this sort of thing, and we get almost caught in a bit of a neither here nor there situation where Lyle Taylor will have a moan at the referee, but it's a nothing really. It's almost like a token gesture, and the referee doesn't feel threatened or intimidated. Or I think you put the I think you used a good phrase the other day when you said, get the referee questioning his own decisions, getting him second-guessing himself. That was the phrase, second-guessing himself. We don't do that. We sort of, Lyle will do his whinge and his moan, but it will never be enough to actually put any pressure on the referee. Yeah.
It's interesting. What I found with Wigan was there's sometimes the way you win a game, you win a game and you come away and you go, that team was really good, a really good team, really impressed with them. What I come away from Wigan is they're an arrogant team. They've got a lot of arrogant players, Nick Powell, Will Grigg, to name a few. Arrogant. Their midfielder captain, got his name now, number 5.
Jacobs?
Might have been.
I shall find out.
One thing, he was the one that got fouled for, and then you'll laugh at this, I don't know if you watch it back, you may see it. But when he got Harry Forrester sent off, he went down like he'd been hit by Mike Tyson.
And
he did a Busquets. He did a very similar Busquets. What he did, I noticed it when I was looking. He was on the floor, and he had a quick look just to see what was happening, and then quickly went and quickly looked the other way. So he knew he had to stay down long enough just to make sure. But what I mean is their reaction to scoring the goal, coming over to the far side, they didn't win. They didn't win many friends, but they won the game. But they're going to win games. They're going to win games that way. And Paul Cook's done what he needs to do to get a win. But can we do what we need to do? Can we do that? Can we be that horrible team? I want to go to places like Gillingham over the Christmas, and I want to go to Bury, and I want them to I want to read on their social media that Wimbledon team hated them, horrible team, moan about everything. But at the end of the day, the result's 1-0 or 2-0 because no one remembers a good loser.
No, I love the fact you've just said, I can't wait to go to Gillingham at Christmas. I'm thinking that's the first time anyone's ever said that.
But do you get what I mean by that? I don't want to be nice. I don't want to be nice.
No, but this comes back to this Wigan team. I reckon how many times, and I think I said this the other day, how many times in the 80s would we have gone to places and won games and people would have had these conversations about us? We'd have left their ground having won the game and they'd have gone, what a horrible little niggly team they were, and having all their moans. But it was winning football. It was successful football.
And do you know what makes me chuckle? Thing is, now we leave a ground, we have a changing room, and we tied it up for them. And I make a laugh about that because we know about the academy that Mark Robinson and Jamie Sawyer have a very much an attitude that they change it. They basically sweep up the change room before they leave.
Yeah.
They leave it with no respect. But I don't want that. I want them to leave it messy. All the values that they're trying to build into the academy, I admire heavily, and they're right. But you and I, a little bit, have been brought up. We've been brought up on the old John Fashanu, Vinnie Jones stories, going back even further to Dave Bassett and Corks and all that. We got friends who have been around even earlier than that. And the one thing they love about Wimbledon was no one liked us.
Yeah.
Well, now we're coming away and going, didn't like them, but they've done a number of us. So, I come away thinking Wigan didn't like them, dirty team, but they get promoted. They know what they've got to do to win games.
Yeah. Yes, we are a little bit just too nice, and I can guarantee we're not going away to Milton Keynes in January and tidying their dressing room afterwards. I'll tell you that now. In fact, I think we should leave some deposits for them in the changing rooms if we would be allowed. I must say, Sam Morsey was Wigan's captain, number 5. For some reason, I've been doing this since the actual game itself. Jacobs, clearly, goal scorer on Saturday, but I've been calling the 5 Jacobs all this time. I don't know why. Sam Morsey, as we all know.
I'll tell you what also Wigan did very quick before we leave that is that they made a quick substitution.
Yes, key to it.
And they brought Power on. Yeah. I know he scored the free kicks. We go, great sub. But what he actually done was replace Massey, and what they'd done in the end was they flooded the midfield areas where they knew they could get the ball and get possession. And in the end, that's where their runners was through that midfield area. So Paul Cook very quickly made a substitution. Don't get me wrong, when you've got substitutes like that, when you can bring on Town, when you can bring on Tony late on for Grigg, that's taking a mick a little bit, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? He ain't short on subs, is he? On quality subs.
No, and that's why I say our substitution didn't react to that at all. In fact, it made it even worse, the fact they could then dominate possession in that midfield area because we had no one that could actually go and win the ball, and we were outnumbered terribly. And it feels like, anyway, that game's gone now. We'll put that to bed. It was always a game that any point from it would have been a bonus. So I suppose the optimistic way of looking at it is indeed that. It still worries us, of course, the fact that, as you've mentioned, that last 20 minutes was a bit of embarrassment, really, the way we fell apart. But anyway, let's leave it there. Let's look at around the division elsewhere and who had a standout result for you this week.
I'll be truthful. I didn't pay much attention after. I thought Gillingham 4-1 against Bristol Rovers. I know Bristol Rovers are the most unpredictable team. Do not bother going anywhere near them on your gambling when you're putting your Sky betting or of course other good betting stations are available. But when you're putting betting stations, betting providers,
bookies, bookmakers.
That's it, bookies. That's the word, isn't it? That's what they're called. One thing about, Bristol Rovers, one we get done by us 3-0, then go beat Southend, then go lose to Gillingham. So their fans must be thinking, what Bristol Rovers team's going to turn up? I would say there's a hell of a goal for Gillingham in that game as well. If you've not watched the highlights, I don't know if you saw it, Nick, but there was a volley for a set piece from a corner, literally a right foot volley that is literally hit with perfection. It's probably one of the best goals I've seen from a set piece for a little while.
I did see that. It's
a
funny
great strike.
Because
great strike.
That might, aside from referee Brett Huxtable, villain of the week for me might well be the Gillingham cameraman. Because, do you know what, when it comes to games at their ground, I give up trying to follow what's going on. It's the worst camera position. It's the worst cameraman / woman I can think of. I just give up. I can't follow what's happening. So I don't really know what happens at Gillingham. Prefield is a bit of a, I don't know, it's a land that doesn't exist in my world.
We just don't want to start scoring goals before we go. That's the problem. But if I look around it, Northampton's win against Walsall stands out. But again, if you want to look at bad defending, have a look at one of the goals in that game. Wow. Shockingly bad, shockingly. Northampton have got a lot of... The Walsall's goal is just calamity.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
It is.
But they got a win. Walsall had a good run, and Northampton have picked up points and put more pressure on us, unfortunately. What about yourself?
Well, I just agreed with you with Bristol Rovers being my worst result of the week. No doubt about that. Best result, I actually went for Peterborough. If you notice, they played on the Sunday away at Fleetwood and got 2 very late goals to actually win that game. So I thought, fair play. They're keeping themselves in and around the playoffs at the moment. So fair play to them. Hero of the week for you?
I don't really have a hero this week.
No, it was a real struggle for me to think of one this week. Do you know who I went for in the end?
Go for it.
The office staff that have been put under severe pressure this week through no fault of their own. And I think I'll probably just leave it at that for now.
Yeah, great shout. Great shout.
Alexa Bliss is the best. Say what? Exactly.
Right, Christmas time. And there is a plethora. See, it's plethora. But then there was my moment to say it correctly and move on as if no one's going to question it, and I got it wrong. Plethora.
I have no idea what it is.
Maybe I'll say plethora from now on, which sounds like some sort of margarine spread. Anyway, damn, said anyway as well. You've been looking at our record over the last few seasons because we've got not only a very busy time coming up, a very, very important time. Lots of games in a short space of time. And you've been trying to see what our form's been like around this time of year because, do you know what? We need some points, and we need some points desperately. Sadly, I made the mistake before you start here, Stu, of looking just at last season's. I'd blotted out Boxing Day last year from my memory, but that was one horrendous experience, wasn't it? Not the most positive way to start, but yes, away at Southend, arguably one of our worst performances of the season.
Yeah, I think what I looked at was that everyone knows that Christmas time, Christmas, New Year, lots of games, festive period, great for us all when we want to get away from our parents and loved ones because they're doing a boxing, because they want to play another game or something like that. So, go and watch football. But also very much a time where you can accumulate points very quickly, or the points can start running out very quickly. And before you get to New Year's Day, you have a lot to do for the turn of the year. So I thought we'd have a look. So last year, our Christmas run-in, so we say we have a 4-0 game. The interesting thing was last year, we had a 4-0 win before we went into the period. We had a 4-0 win against Port Vale. As we said, that went into our Christmas period. So we had Southend away, lost 3-0. I've not forgot that. That was shocking down there, wasn't it? Then lost 2-0 to Bristol Rovers. And funny thing about that game was that was the same referee that we had on Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was at that game. And then we went into the New Year's Day fixture. It was on the 2nd of January. But a 2-2 draw against Millwall, which was quite a good... I remember that very well. We'd done really well. We stuck in with a very good Millwall team, didn't we? Yeah. But basically, we were 11th going into Southend game and come out 13th. So reasonably unscathed. We got 4 points out of the 9 available. But we had a car crash.
No, we didn't.
We got 4 points.
Yeah, out of how many?
Oh, no, we didn't. Sorry, because we didn't win at Southend, didn't we? Yeah. We got 1 point out of 9 points.
Yes.
Sorry, for some reason I saw 3-0. Yes, 4 out of 20. And I just sort of, I'm just sitting there thinking, do you know what? I've just actually remembered, I was just at the Southend game. Of course, Lyle Taylor's sending off.
Yes,
that feels not a year ago. I remember that, yeah. Wasn't that when he went in late, didn't he? He got a bit Tetris, didn't he? Went in a bit late.
Yeah, he got frustrated because we were so rubbish that day.
Wow, I remember that very clearly, but that's a year ago. Wow, time flies when you're having fun.
Going back to that game actually was one of the reasons I put Southend, I think I predicted them to go up this season because of that day, and you looked at the quality in their squad. That's a conversation for next week's show, I think, about how inconsistent they've been. But yeah, so overall, it was, you're right, we came through it unscathed in the grand scheme of things, but we had those 2 away defeats in a short space of time in the middle of it. And Port Vale as well, the 4-0 win we had. I think we had something like, because of the way Christmas fell last year, did we have like a 9-day break? It was a really long time between the last game before Christmas and Boxing Day.
It was, so the Port Vale game was on the 17th and then Boxing Day, so yeah, quite big. It's quite... The problem you got with your Boxing Day games, they're normally local derbies and that sort of stuff. But we do get a bit of a rubbish. We do get a bit of a rubbish draw sometimes because we have a lot of good local teams. So sometimes, even though they're great because they're Christmas games and stuff like that, the Christmas period, you think about it, look at Southend, Bristol Rovers, Millwall. That ain't easy. That ain't easy at all. Cool.
No, could argue though we got slightly fortunate this year, I suppose, because really Charlton should be around this time of year, shouldn't it? You'd have thought, and that would have been that was a harder game. But anyway, I'm musing. Sorry, carry on. So before that, that was last season. So I guess before that was the year we won promotion, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that was quite happy at times actually. So our 3 games that year were Bristol Rovers again. Funny enough. With I missed this game because I think if I remember, I was in Tenerife for Christmas. But this was the famous Paul Robinson getting sent off, and then it got overturned.
Right.
On the Boxing Day games, we had a 0-0 draw against Bristol Rovers. Then went away to Exeter, and won 2-0 there. And then away to Cambridge when we smashed them 4-1. So, as I said before, as I said at the start of this bit, it can very much lots of points available, can put you in a good position, or can put you in a situation where you're chasing points. That Christmas period was pretty good going and set us up for. We were 13th going into the Bristol Rovers game, and managed to finish 7th in the end and get promoted. So. Yeah, that was a lovely Christmas. And I remember Exeter very well. Went down to Exeter and 2 really good goals. Tom Elliott and Lyle Taylor down there. So Exeter weren't doing too bad at the time either. So quite a good win. Cambridge, always my favourite goal with Ali Aziz rounding the goalkeeper and slotting it home. In control all the way through.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm spotting a flaw in going through this, or these results, I should say, in that names of players that are no longer with us.
Yes.
Because, yes, Tom Elliott's goals, well, I'm just thinking back to last season as well. Millwall he scored against, didn't he? And in that 2-2 draw and that 4-0 win over Port Vale, we've already mentioned we had Chris Robertson there scoring for us, and Dominic Polion and Tom Elliott and Tyrone Barnett. In fact, none of them are with us anymore. So, we know we have a big problem scoring goals, but we'll come on to that goal-scoring problem a little bit more shortly. That was a period, though, that season, obviously kick-started our season and took us from the bottom half all the way to promotion. So who's to say this season we won't go on a similar run and end up winning the league?
Definitely. And then, year before, let's have a look here. So we had, again, a tough one. Pompey on Boxing Day, Exeter at home on the sort of middle Christmas, the New Year, and then away to Stevenage on New Year's Day. Sorry, not away to Stevenage, sorry. There was no New Year's game, no New Year's Day game, actually.
I swear we did have Stevenage that year, didn't we?
We did on the 10th of January, so it must have been...
10th of January, wow.
So I'm thinking that we must have had a game postponed.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So that year we only had Pompey away, and we were at home to Exeter. If I remember properly, Pompey game wasn't live, was it? Sorry, no. But we had Frankie Sutherland, who scored a cracking goal away at Pompey.
Yeah.
And was that the year Tubbs didn't celebrate?
Yeah.
Hey, another goal scorer.
Another player that scored in the Christmas period and then left us. Again, though, isn't it funny? Big gap between games that season, like we talked about earlier, last season, had the reverse effect because it didn't have exactly the same effect. We had those great wins, as you mentioned. Was it 4-1 over Exeter? Aziz was on fire, and then we had a big, big gap, and we came back and we'd lost at Stevenage. Sometimes momentum you can generate over that short space of time is great. Lots of points in a short space of time, but that gap can derail you somewhat. So really, I guess in this sort of time, really, it's not making me feel any better. I've got to be honest with you, Stu, because you want to pick up momentum at this time of year, don't you? As I've just said, Bradford at home, then Portsmouth away, doesn't suggest that we've got to get off to a good start.
It's a tough Christmas this year. So if we take away the fact we've got Bradford Saturday coming up, then going away to Pompey, then going away to Gillingham, then home to Southend. It ain't easy. It's not easy. And what we're going to look at, moving after this, is we're going to look at where you are on New Year's Day in terms of the last 3 seasons. Where does finishing New Year's Day put you into where you could possibly finish in the season? So what we've done is looked at the bottom 4 for the last 3 seasons on New Year's Day and seen whether any of those got escaped. Did they get relegated? And you'll probably see that actually being out of the bottom 4 or not being in the bottom 2 will give us a massive chance based on historical data.
Historical data. Let's have a look at this historical data then. So, looking at the Christmas New Year period, and we'll preview those Bradford and Portsmouth games more later, but it's a mixed bag, really. I think last year wasn't great. That's the level we're at now. You could argue that's where our form for 2017, could you say that's where it was? The wheels were set in motion for it almost? Because 2017 has not been a great year whatsoever. We'll talk about more again next week.
No, yeah.
Did it start with that Boxing Day defeat?
Possibly, yeah. Something set in there, didn't we? We went on the background, the back of a run that got us into Wembley and got us promoted. But then eventually it does run out. The momentum runs out, doesn't it? Really. But yeah, the year as a whole has been a shocking year. A shocking year on the pitch. Off the pitch, you have to say, quite successful with finishing off with the S106 being we signed. And so a mixture 2017 really, isn't it? But on the pitch, a tough one. But what basically we looked at, and we might put this on our Twitter or our website, but what we looked at the last 3 seasons were basically the last 2 seasons. On the last 2 seasons, if you were on New Year's Day, so after the New Year's Day game, if you were bottom or 23rd, then you stayed relegated. No one got out of that. So last year, Chesterfield, Coventry were bottom 2, stayed there. The year before that was Crewe and Colchester, and again didn't recover. Bearing in mind, and you might go, well, that's obvious because they were bottom 2. But if you look at last year, there was 3 teams on 21 points, and bottom team was on 20. So there wasn't much between them. There was not much between them. And the year before that, again, was very tight, where you had Fleetwood on 23 points to the last relegation place. You had 2 on 21, and the bottom team had 20. So there was no team that was falling away, and basically when they're relegated before Christmas, it was quite tight. But what we did look at, if you finished 21st or 22nd in the last 2 seasons, you survived. You basically managed to get out. So Oldham were one of those teams last year. And believe it or not, Shrewsbury were 22nd on New Year's Day. So look at 2017 they've had. Complete mirror version to us, isn't it?
It is, but it's making me look at it and go, the importance of one position in the league. If you look at it at that data historically, so basically what you're saying is 23rd position, which is where we are now. And anyone listening to this right now, we're not doing a very good job of cheering you up ahead of Christmas at the moment because the stats are not falling on our favour. But what you're saying is 23rd on New Year's Day, down you go. 22nd, well, you could be shooting up the league and flying. So
yeah,
small fine margins at this stage. I mean, in reality, what other teams do, I guess, shouldn't really have any bearing. But it does make you wonder. 23rd, I guess it really does remind you 23rd in the league where we are currently, and how hard it is to get out of that situation.
And very tight. But one of the things that did strike me was that one of the things that did strike me was, if you think last season, Chesterfield Coventry had 20 points. Chesterfield 21 points and Coventry 20. They finished, Chesterfield finished with 37, Coventry finished with 39, so they changed over, Chesterfield finished bottom. However, the teams that finished, who had basically 21 points, Oldham and Shrewsbury, they actually managed to get 53 points and 51 points respectively.
Yeah.
So they really did motor. So it sort of suggests that if you are in those bottom 2, maybe psychologically, it's a bit tougher. The flip side to it is last year, is that the 2 teams that actually finished in the last 2 relegation places were Swindon, who were 19th on New Year's Day, and Port Vale, who was 17th. So there are some teams that are still around it that can be drawn in. But what it does show historically is that if we don't improve in our position from now, so 23rd before New Year's Day, historically, that's going to be tough to respond to. So, not to dampen people's spirits, but we've got to be realistic. We've got to make sure we are not bottom 2. If we can be outside the playoff, if we can be outside, the relegation places, then historically we've got a good chance.
Yeah, it's the gravity of the situation is what we've got to be mindful of, I think. And some people have pointed to performances perhaps belying 23rd position, especially over the last 5 or 6 weeks, but doesn't change the situation we are in. And yeah, I do take a lot of comfort, though, out of this, looking at Port Vale last season, 17th, and they've ended up going down. And as I said to you before, if we can, the problem is, I know, if buts and maybes. We can be 3 points, win a game in hand, and we're within 3 points of Milton Keynes, who are loitering, hovering in that sort of position in the table. So no one's free from it yet. Everyone's still looking over their shoulders. There's a long way to go.
What we've got to look at as well is that we've got obviously Bury, who are bottom.
Yeah.
Our game obviously got postponed, so that's a game in hand, but it's the all-time 6-pointer. So when does that get rescheduled? Does it get rescheduled in January or does it go to February? Bearing in mind that the Blackburn Rovers game has been scheduled now for February. But we also have to look for the fact that we've got a lovely trip to Wembley just after New Year, but then the week after, we go into, as you just rightly said, a potentially another 6-pointer against them up the road. There are some real big games, and I think there are teams. I think what this shows you, if we go, just to please people, there's always teams that fall in where you don't suspect they will, and the one that is probably one of the biggest ones was in 2014-15, when Notts County were, believe it or not, they were 10th on New Year's Day, and they got relegated, which is just unbelievable when you think about it. Do you know what I mean? They had 32 points. Quite a good return. So there's always a team. I think that if you look at where we are, I think you've got the Bristol Rovers, teams like that are the ones that you think if we can just catch, they're full. But yeah, historically, it doesn't look too great. We've got to make sure we are not 23rd or rock bottom at the turn of 2018.
And Notts County, you mentioned their fall from grace a few years ago. This does happen. So we look back over the years, and I say look back over the years, we're going back 20, 25 years now, but the ones that have been most famous in my time watching football really have been Norwich's collapse when they got relegated from the Premier League, where they were top half before Christmas and then they fell through and got relegated. And then the reverse of that is Crystal Palace, of course, in Division 1 or the Championship. I'm not sure what it was at the time, when they were in the relegation zone, I think, at the turn of the year, and they ended up winning the playoffs. These, I guess, are the exceptions that prove the rule, though, that wherever you are at the halfway point, Alex Ferguson always used to say, actually, didn't he, that the league only starts in January. But I think for a lot of teams, the die is cast long before that. And around this time, if you're in the bottom four like we are, you can pretty much bet that you're going to be in the bottom 6, bottom 7 come the end of the season. So
yeah, I think what it shows you as well is that we've got a transfer window coming up, and I'm sure you and I will probably go through our Christmas presents list for the transfer window. But
Alexa.
But there's a lot of work to do, and if we can get the right players in, then you can see sometimes where teams, can come out of being in 22nd or 21st in the league and push up. If you get your recruitment right over this January transfer window, then you've got a chance. And Neil Hardy, by all, he's admitted to the fact that he missed out on the target man. Hasn't said that he recruited badly. Apart from that, that time would be cast on that. But we've really got this transfer window. It's one of those ones. Are we going to splash the cash? So we've as report, at the time of recording, we've just sold out our 7,700 allocation at Wembley for Spurs.
Oh yes, I've got some breaking news about that as well.
Okay, breaking news as we're recording.
As we're recording. Well, you just mentioned spending money in the January transfer window and the Wembley FA Cup third round tie, which has helped out a little bit. I can exclusively reveal that we have profited from that Spurs game to a grand total of £46.94.
Lovely. What should we spend it on?
Carlton Cole.
But it is, the thing is, we've just signed an S106. Do we really want to get relegated in the season after that? I know it's not, we don't talk about relegation. Eric Samuelson doesn't talk about relegation. And rightly so, because no one gets relegated at Christmas. But for the January transfer window, do we put all that money we've got from there? Do we find some surplus money? Do we find some money that we've been holding on to? Do we go to one of our sponsors and go, can you rustle a few tenors together? And can you give us that extra player in the window? I think it's a big window, and I wonder whether we're going to go, we don't get relegated. We can't get relegated. We're not going to be the only team doing that. Bury, I'm sure, are going to be spending money. Gillingham, do they have it? Gillingham knows sometimes to find money.
Yeah, they've had a recent windfall as well, haven't they? So
Yeah. So we're not going to be the only ones, but this January transfer window is absolutely massive. And that's why there's such a, going into a new year, depending on where you are, gives you that platform. Can you push out of it, or are you bottom and you give in and you just go through the motions, which a few teams have done in recent history?
now there is I'm going to use that word again, plethora of stats you have accumulated this week, Stu, but I'm very conscious of time, and we ran very long last week, and it's not always about length, of course. However, I feel we probably should wrap this up within an hour today. So lots of fascinating statistics. Are we all right to leave them for next week's year in review show?
Yeah, I've depressed myself enough, so I'm happy to move on. Stats can be, sometimes stats can be good, as Neil Hardy always knows. It can be good. Sometimes it can be bad.
Thank you for that, that's Stu's Christmas message. I expect that'll be in the Queen's speech as well, if she does it, of course. So, with that said, should we brighten the shot with a game of Abdu Are You?
Yeah, because I've done it. I'm still happy that I pulled one out of the bag, as they say. Yeah, I was very impressed with that. I'm bound to go back down to my normal standards this week.
There's a chance this week. I'm going to say, if I had to give you out of 10, I'd say you've probably got a 5.5, 6 chance of getting this one. Okay?
Wow.
You've got 0 chance of getting on the cryptic clue this week, however.
Yeah.
Which is basically Jimmy, once again, mistakenly believing that he's talking to a character from Father Ted.
Yeah, as we've said in many other episodes, I don't really watch Father Ted because I don't really find it that funny.
Oh, dear. Oh, what has he said?
I just don't find that. It's just... Yeah, I'll stop now before I get myself in trouble.
That's just your anti-Catholic hatred you have.
Yeah, I know I've made upset somebody by what I was... Yeah, I never found that funny, to be honest with you, but then I've been the same with... I've got her name now. What's that woman who dressed up as a man? On BBC One.
There's many of those, Stu.
Oh, I can't think now.
Lily Savage.
No, yeah.
Brett Nell.
Oh, no, I've forgotten her name now.
She's Mrs. Brown.
That's it. I've never understood that either.
Oh, well.
Never understood it. Must be the northern people. Anyway, this is... I haven't got a clue, but I don't know. She's northern, isn't she? Is that right? He, she? I don't know what it is.
Maybe Northern Irish at a pinch. Possibly.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's worrying. The accent's not very good.
It's set in Dublin.
Oh, biggest city in the world, that is.
Oh, dear me. And sorry, you just said you don't find Father Ted funny, and you've come out with that joke. Wow.
Yeah.
Should we move on?
No, I don't know.
Not running long.
I don't know.
Right, so this was a midfield player who had more clubs, as the saying goes, more clubs than a pack of cards, never playing more than 50 games for any team, having started out at Sheffield Wednesday.
Sheffield Wednesday? Midfielder had more than 50 games. Quite who do we get who started? So a lot of our recruitment didn't. Wow, so... Crikey, this would be one of my good subjects, because I'm guessing this would be an older player as well, so which is my stronger ones. No, I can't think of anyone at midfielder like that.
You are better with the oldies, but no. Well, this is going to throw you completely in with the third clue. This player featured 10 times for us in the Ryman Premier League.
Yeah, I knew you were going to chuck that in.
But he never scored, and he was never particularly popular at all.
Nick Roddice.
Is that your final answer?
I haven't got a clue. Sheffield Wednesday. Bearing in mind that all our recruits were locals in those leagues, weren't they? Do you know what I mean? So, Dwayne Plummer. I'm trying to think of some players that... No, Nick Roddice I can go with.
It's the wrong answer, Stu.
Yeah, I guess they would be.
It's a tricky one, this one. Okay, anagram. Are-an band.
Are-an band.
Are-an band. It's quite tricky to say. I might be able to quickly knock up another anagram if you bear with me whilst you think that one over.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to help me, if I'm being truthful. I'm rubbish at anagrams. Brand. Nah, I'm giving up on this one. I haven't got a clue. He starts with Sheffield Wednesday anyway.
He started his career at Sheffield Wednesday. I've got another anagram for you. This could be, you've heard of Annan Athletic, haven't you, in the Scottish divisions? Yes. Well, they have a rival team apparently called Annan Bender.
No, I ain't got a clue. Put me out of misery, please.
I will do. It was one Mr. Dean Brennan.
Oh, boo.
That was a very tricky one, actually. I thought you might know from the fact he had lots and lots of clubs and he was in the Ryland Premier, didn't play very often and was not very popular whatsoever.
The problem with the non-league days, especially like Round 1 and stuff, we had so many players, didn't we?
It's true.
So sometimes... And also, because we went through the leagues quite quickish, try to remember who they played in, but yeah...
Who they played in?
Or played with, sorry, or played what league they played in. That's another story for another time.
Yes. Many tales of those days. Yeah, Dean Brennan. Famous in my memory for playing in the cup final against Kingstonian and clearing a shot off the line. Sadly, it was from one of our own players.
Cool. Well done, mate. You're back to form. You've stumped me.
Well, thank you. Bishop Brennan was the character in Father's Head, by the way, because last week, whoever it was... Who was it last week, Jason?
Yes.
Cyril Macduff, I think, was the cryptic clue person that he was getting confused with. And obviously the Simpsons character would have been Duff Man. So, anyway, let's move on. Bradford City. Just to cheer up the listeners even more, Stu, I have remembered since we started recording that next week when we host Bradford City, we are without the suspended Harry Forrester. We're also without the suspended dead Josh Elijah because he has picked up his 5 bookings.
Yeah, well, there was a story around, and don't quote me on this, but apparently the cut-off has already passed for the 5 bookings, and Deji will not be suspended. I do hear that from a good source.
Good source.
Yeah, very, very good source, who's someone who should know that they did change a date. So I believe that he won't qualify for the 5 booking.
Okay.
So yeah, that's why he is. So he should play. Of course, if he doesn't play on Saturday, just treat whatever I said with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, well, we do most things. And Bradford, last season they were unbeaten at home all season. This year they are much better away from home. So they've lost about 5 times at home, actually, but away from home they have the best record in League One and haven't, would you believe, they haven't lost away in the league since October, and that was a 3-1 defeat to Bury, of all teams. So hopefully they struggle against the rubbish teams. Not that I'm saying we're rubbish. However, I look at their team, and what is it about them that has them in the playoff picture last season, playoff final last season, in the playoff positions this season? What do they have? Because I'm looking on paper, nothing there that really... I don't see them as a team in the way I did last week with Wigan that I'm scared or fearful of whatsoever. Am I wrong to feel that way?
Do you know what? I think they've got some good players. They're a very much workmanlike team. So, of course, we know some of their players, of course, do. Charlie White, who's a very good player. We knew that when we had him on loan, didn't we, that he was more than decent. Don Bolion, Vincent, Law, who I've always liked. I think he's an excellent player. True,
Nicky Law, yes, I'll give you that.
Yeah, very good player, do you know what I mean? And the funny thing is that I was just going to say, in terms of on the weekend, when it's at Southend, Jake Reeves was on the bench and come off. So, they had Jake Reeves on the bench on Saturday. So when you can chuck Jake Reeves onto the bench, you're not doing too badly. Yeah. So I think they've got a very workmanlike team. They've got Kilgallen at the bank as well, who I like, Knight Percival. Yeah, they've got... I don't see many weaknesses in that team. I see a team that can mix it about. So if you try and beat them up, they're going to basically beat you back up. If you try and outplay them, they're going to stop you, be niggly. Yeah, they've got match winners. We all know Jake Reeves. It depends on, does Jake Reeves come back and think, I'm gonna put on a performance, or does he feel a bit sorry for us? Of course, professionally, he's going to try and play well, but does he occasionally get to him? Does he try too hard? Don Polion, what sort of reception does Don Polion get? I think he gets a good reception. I don't think Don Polion left on a bad note. But also, he's back in goal scoring form, isn't he? And he's doing that stupid celebration as well, which he did against Southend, which makes him look a bit of a bellend.
Yes.
But again, if he does that against us, then he scored a goal, and we're going to not like him too much either. But I think they've got a very good team. I really do. And another tough game.
Don Polion, if he does score against us, by the way, I want him to do that celebration. I'll tell you why. Because I'm sick of this not going to celebrate against my former team nonsense.
Yeah, true.
Nonsense. Like, I don't know of any football fan in the country that if we score against Bradford on Saturday, which I think we might do, their defensive record isn't actually, they are leaking gold recently. I'm not going to not celebrate. I'm not going to be standing there going, well, out of respect for Jake Reeves, Charlie Wyke and Don Polion, I'm not going to celebrate. It just doesn't work that way. I just celebrate the goal. Just be happy you scored. If there are certain circumstances, for instance, Danny Kedwell scoring against us for Gillingham 2 games from the end of the season when we were in the relegation zone, and a defeat could have sent us down. That makes sense. I can understand him not celebrating then. There are certain occasions where you wouldn't. But a league game in December, do you know what? If you score a goal, just be happy you scored a goal. That's the whole point. That's what you're there to do. Anyway, prediction?
No, I'm hoping for 1-1 draw or a draw of some sort.
Yeah, I actually think I'm going to break away from it. I think there'll be goals. I think we'll score. I can't see us keeping a clean sheet. 1-1 sounds about right to me, actually. I must say, now you've said that. And I don't think that's out of the question whatsoever, actually. And we'll be quite happy with that. So,
just talk about goals, by the way, as well, just when we finish off Bradford. I read in the press the other day that our player that we like, I don't know what's his Irish name in it? Doyle, who plays for Oldham. Owen, that's it. Okay. Why do they spell it that way?
Some people do. Yeah. Do you remember the first player I remember spelling it that way was Owen Jess, was the Aberdeen player. Do you remember him?
I do.
Yeah, that was the first time I came across it.
Just to confuse
not the last time I came across it, Owen.
Just to confuse me. But Owen Doyle, apparently Scunthorpe put a £350,000 bid in to Preston for his services in the transfer window.
What? Scunthorpe have bid £355,000
on the one of the rumour pages, which I always believe.
Right.
The rumour is that I think if someone can get hold of, if anyone in that top 5 in League One can get hold of his services in the transfer window, then I think they got a hell of a lot of hands. And also weakens Oldham massively. 12 goals since he come there. He's basically at the moment he's 127 minutes per goal. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think we're on about 900 minutes. I'm joking. But yeah, apparently 350 grand. That's a snip though if they can get promotion to Championship on the back of it. But yeah, he's in demand, and that's not a surprise. But it could work good for us as well because, as I say, it would strongly weaken. Strongly weaken? That's not right to go, is it? It will severely weaken a relegation candidate in League One.
It does make me reevaluate everything in my football life, to be honest with you, when I think we talk about Premier League teams having money that they just thrown loads of money out of nowhere, which is much bigger than their respective size of their club. And they're a Scunthorpe with £350,000. What's that about?
You could buy Scunthorpe. You could buy Scunthorpe for £350,000.
Yeah, you could. You wouldn't want to, but you could.
Here's a key.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't think there's a key. I don't think there's a key to Scunthorpe. You just go in and help yourself.
I do apologise, just in case Neil Cox is listening to my stupidity, as he is a proud Scunthorpe Onion?
Scunthorpian?
I don't know what it is.
Scunthorpenite?
Stupidity.
Yeah, absolutely. That sums up this show. Speaking of stupidity, by the way, you are quite right. Deji Eshalaja is not listed as being suspended this week, but a quick look at the FA's disciplinary website to find out a list of suspensions. Obviously, Harry Forrester is out for 1 game. I have noticed that on the very first page, following people suspended for a little while, Marvin Ziegler, Troy Deeney and Abdullahi, Watford. What did I say about discipline last week? 9 red cards this season. Dirty Watford.
Really? Dirty Watford.
Dirty Watford. And that's just the town centre. Right. Bradford then, this week, updates will be on Twitter at 9YRS Podcast. There will, of course, be updates from Portsmouth on Boxing Day as well, because that will be a game out of the way before we next join you on the show. I don't know if we'll have an update before or between those 2 games. Probably unlikely, to be honest with you. It's Christmas time. You'll live. And that's about it. If you are listening to us on Thursday, Don's Trust AGM is this evening, 7:30 PM at Kings Meadow. So please come down there if you can. Always good to get down and see what's going on. Chance to speak to the Donald Trust board, and I believe Eric Samuelson at this meeting. So yes, your attendance will be very much appreciated. Both Stu and I will be there, and Stu, I've got Football Manager lined up on my laptop, so we can be sat playing that during the meeting.
Superb. So if you hear a random cheer, that'll be me scoring.
Well, I don't know what you're doing. Well, I'm playing Football Manager, but you crack on. You feel whatever gets you through these meetings, Stu. Right. On that note,
of course.
Thank you for listening. Please remember to like us and subscribe to us. If you're listening on either iTunes or YouTube, if you're listening to our website, leave a comment underneath and tell us what you think. I have said that, or I've had that on the script in that exact wording for about 12 weeks now. But then again, we've got to December the, what are we? December the 21st?
First,
and yes, you're still listening to the new song by these fine gentlemen. So that's it for this week. Thank you, Stu, for joining me. Thank you guys for listening, and join us next week. We will be speaking to Alan Sugar to discuss whether or not he believes Tottenham were in fact joint winners of the Premier League back in 2016. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, and we will speak to you again next week.